Hi everyone, this is audap. Let's check out Root Double Before Crime After Days Asterisk Extended Edition. I don't know what it is with the Japanese and putting special characters in their titles. sometimes the naming conventions drive me nuts. Alright, let's make the message speed max. I think download speed should be a little faster than normal. Leave all that touchscreen. We'll turn the touchscreen off since we're playing with a controller. That's the option to cancel your senses. I don't know what that means. We'll see if we can leave the sound on. A lot of times this music has its own copyright, so I don't know. We may end up having to play this game without background music. You know, if it's something that you guys would want to see more of. But we'll see. There's no way to tell until after you submit something to YouTube or Twitch or Facebook Gaming whether or not they have their takedown notices come up. There's no way for me to like preview it ahead of time, which is, I don't know. A lot of things are broken about game streaming. But I digress. Let's check this game out. Let's see. Route select, huh? It says route after, route before. I'm assuming I need route after. Why is after ahead of before? Well, I see. 9 souls are trapped in LABO. They attempt to escape the facility in the face of that hopeless situation. However, reality sneers at those struggling to survive. At the limits of fatigue and anxiety, a death looming over them, something lurks in their hearts. Is it the courage to never give up, or can they cleave a path to the future with their own hands? Let's see. Route 2. A certain accident traps children in LABO, a nuclear research facility. It is then that the boy is caught up in a mysterious phenomenon. He finds himself recalling the past as if he were reliving it. A strange phenomenon indeed. He soon watches once again as a trivial incident causes his peaceful days to collapse. What awaits him at the end is a shocking, cruel truth. Can the past be rewritten? Oh, okay, that definitely sounds like a part 2. Alright. Perspective. Watase Kasasagi. Whoa, that's an interesting name. Oh, look at all those endings. Oh boy. I'm assuming a lot of these are bad endings too, and likely I will just find every single bad ending naturally because I love to do that in visual novels. Let's go.
彼らは捕虜が集められるように牢に集められ、獄に閉じ込められる。多くの日が経った後、彼らは罰せられる。旧約聖書、イザヤ書24章22節。
The roar echoed through the laboratory at daybreak, as if it were a bell heralding the end.
何の音だ？わかりません。第一エリアの方から。確認を早く。あ、いけません。増幅中にゲートを開けては。
ただいま地下1階第1エリアで激しい振動を感知しました。
The roars didn't stop there.
ただいま地下2階第3エリアで激しい振動を感知しました。
The loud noises and violent shaking continue to echo through the facility.
ただいま地下1階第2エリアで火災が発生しました。
Followed immediately by shockwaves and the sound of screaming.
ただいま地下2階第2エリアで激しい振動を感知しました。切断の先
There wasn't a soul in that place who yet understood what had happened here. A clear voice echoed amongst all the confusion and cacophony.
緊急放送です。ただいま施設内で原因不明の爆発が発生しました。
That voice that announced the destruction was but a fragment of the truth. September 16, 2030, 6:19 a.m. At the 6th Laboratory of Atomic and Biological Organization. A scientific research facility located on the outskirts of Rokumei City. An explosion occurred.
繰り返します。施設内のセキュリティを避難モードに移行。N エリアを除く全ゲートを開放します。職員の皆様は落ち着いて地上へ避難してください。
The automatic PA screamed out warnings as if it had broken. It was an accident that should have been impossible.
消火システムが作動しない。なぜだ。くそ。署員の避難を急がせろ。
Everyone had begun ranting madly, caught up in the chaos surrounding them.
非常階段が崩れ落ちただと。エレベーターもすべて停止しています。避難の術がありません。バカな。なんでそんなことに。とにかく避難を急いで。
But then a calm voice rose as if to quell the pandemonium.
みんな落ち着きなさい。
博士。
忘れたの？有事の際には即座に所轄の消防署に通報が届くシステムになっていることを。ものの数分で救助隊が到着するはずよ。
数分でそんな早すぎる。
彼らは通常の消防隊員ではないのよ。特別高度救助隊シリウス。
Oh, I was about to say fire squad.
我が市が誇るレスキュー隊の精鋭たちよ。
Go in there and flip kick the flames. Yeah. While bringing an unusually buxom priestess. 6:26 a.m. The rescue squad arrived at the scene.
隊長、A チーム全員揃いました。
A row of rescue workers wearing protection suits stood before a man garbed in the same outfit.
よし、全員そのまま聞け。現在このラボの中には無数の人が取り残されている。そして施設の性質上、これは通常の出場ではない。この現状では何が起こるかわからない。どんな不測の事態もだ。
A young woman who appeared to be fairly new to the team gulped behind her face mask. The captain looked at her and continued.
俺たちの任務は人を救助すること。いつもそうだったように、今日もそれは変わらない。だがお前たちはレスキュー隊員である前に人間だ。お前たちが生還すれば、それだけで1名の命を救ったことになる。以上に留意し、救助活動に従事しろ。それでは幸運を祈る。
With that shout, they rushed into the facility, all while having no idea of what awaited them there. And thus, the dispatch that would later come to be known as Sirius's longest day had begun.
立花は森部と堂島は檜山とツーマンセルだ。B チームとの連絡を欠かすな。連携を常に取り続けろ。
They all had the same conviction. To accomplish the mission, they'd been handed by whatever means necessary. However, what they found lurking there far exceeded their imagination. Countless unexpected complications kept arising one after another.
森部、地下にまだ人が。
Oh, so it's like Buried Stars that we played a couple weeks ago.
行こう、副隊長。
Although I think this game came out, well before Buried Stars was ever made.
カササギ、すぐに地下に来てくれ。時間がありません。急いで。
わかった。そこで待ってろ。
繋がらない。え？おかしいです。隊長に何が？
ここが N エリアか。この先に例の2人が閉じ込められてるって言うんですか？
そうさ。だから行こう。あの時俺たちは誰も救えなかった。その贖罪をする時がようやく来たんだよ。
But even that determination can be crushed.
バカな。誰もいないだって。
騙されたのか俺たちは。なぜ誰に。どうしてこんなことに。
悔やむなお前ら。今は後悔する時じゃない。
Well, especially for them.
まだ任務は続いているんだ。
I mean, the scientists.
ただいまケース N が発生しました。緊急事態につきセキュリティを通常モードに移行。地上に続く全隔壁を閉鎖します。
俺がその子を探しに行く。
バカ一人でか。
行くしかないだろ。お前たちは後を頼む。20分待って戻らなかったら俺を置いていけ。
He swallowed his regret and ran, all in order to stick true to his convictions.
ようやく見つけた。君はこのラボの関係者だな。
あなたは。
Oh, at first I didn't think she had any arms. I was like, what? Okay, now I can see him.
レスキュー隊だ。君たちを救助に来た。
Thus he found a lone girl, and then...
間に合うか。まだあいつらはいるはずだ。きっとこの先に。
He endured the pain and kept on walking. And then, at the end of his mission, he came face to face with a monster. A dancing monster? What? The monster took hold of his wrist. The monster looked at him and laughed. The man spotted a broken wristwatch out of the corner of his eye. At that moment, just as an indescribable fear sent shivers down his spine. He was assaulted by an intense pain akin to his brain being crushed. The man screamed, faced with an agony unlike anything he had ever felt before. He struggled to understand the source of the pain amidst the confusion engulfing him.
今のはまさかお前も頭の中を。
His well-toned body proved helpless in the face of that power. You damn monster! In spite of that, he struggled against it, attempting to complete his mission. Nevertheless, his will broke as the overwhelming pain surged through his head once more. He staggered backwards, clutching his head. The monster's face warped sinisterly, its gaze piercing right through him. He then fled without looking back. If he'd stood his ground, he'd be killed, annihilated. And so he held his throbbing head as he ran for his life. I have to get away, as far away as possible. He had to retreat to a place where the monster's power couldn't reach him. But it was all for naught. Everything in front of him flashed as he felt an agony like that of his head exploding. And that was the last thing he felt. And then, as if someone had flipped a switch, his consciousness faded into darkness. Flipping switches right away, why would it fade? Okay, well, maybe I'm being too literal. Eventually, far past that frozen time, awake, a voice called to him. Or perhaps it was merely a memory of such a voice. He heard that voice as he lay beneath the whitewashed tomb, and then the time began to move. Oh, but not animated. But we'll just assume that it's moving. (9/16/2030) 9/16. His consciousness was in an endless darkness, a world where everything was closed off. Sight, hearing, touch, smell, taste. He'd been disconnected from all his senses. It didn't feel like there was a world around him for him to experience at all. Where am I? He didn't know. His head was a total blank. What is this? All he could sense was a feeling of loss. What's going on? It felt like he was lacking anything definitive. How did this happen? He desperately tried to figure out why. Soon enough, fragmented images twinkled in the corners of his mind. I love dancing. I see. So that thing attacked me and did a mean two-step. Is this death? No. The sound of a beating heart echoed inside him. He knew for sure he could perceive that. This guy is... No, not this guy. I'm... Tatsuya, alive. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, pain. Oh, I could have done with that last one. I have all of those senses. My body and consciousness are right here. I'm right here. With the sound of those voices suddenly filling my ears, the man opened his eyes. The man said nothing as the woman before him started addressing him.
ていうか隊長、なんでこんなところにいるのさ。式場にいるはずじゃ。
それよりご自分の名前を言えますか？今日が何月何日かは。
The man already felt confused in the face of the sudden storm of questions he'd been sucked into. He first tried to grasp the situation around him. The women in front of him were wearing orange uniforms. So they're firefighters. No, rescue workers. Their uniforms were covered in soot. Disaster, accident, rescue. Vague images related to those words swirled around in the man's mind.
まだ起き上がらない方が。
The man ignored her warnings and sat up, then checked his surroundings. He was in some building he'd never seen before. He'd apparently been lying in the middle of a hall. He could see cold steel doors and fire hydrants lining the corridor. A glance up at the ceiling revealed air ducts, sprinklers, and so... A sharp headache hit the man at that moment, causing him to fall to the floor yet again.
大丈夫？痛むの？
Oh no, I love falling to the floor when I'm feeling good.
いや、大丈夫だ。
Just then, the man realized he was wearing the same uniform as the women. Why am I wearing this thing? He felt a strange sensation of discomfort, like he had no connection with himself. Why was he in this uniform?
俺は一体。
The man stood up as he shook his groggy head. His body also felt off, almost like his body and mind weren't properly linked together. It kind of feels like this isn't my body or something. No sooner had this thought crossed the man's mind.
なんだ？
The The woman paid no heed to the man's confusion and instead exchanged glances.
また爆発。火が出てるかも。行こう、副隊長。
ええ。隊長はそこで休んでいてください。私たちだけで行ってきます。
The woman who had been called lieutenant broke off into a run alongside the other woman, who was apparently her subordinate.
ちょっと
Scared of being left alone and totally in the dark about what was going on, the man followed the two. He called out to them as he started closing the distance.
待ってくれ君たち。
隊長、休んでいてと申し上げましたのに。
いや、大丈夫そうだよ。だったら手伝ってもらおうよ。
そうじゃない。教えてもらいたいだけなんだ。さっきの音は何だ。何が起きてるんだ。
何言ってんの隊長。どういう状況か分かってないの？
The women looked at each other for a brief second.
来ればわかります。我々についてきてください。
The lieutenant broke off into another run at those words with the man hot on her trail. She then opened a door at the end of the hall, sending intense heat surging out of it. What is this heat? A heat haze filled the area, distorting their vision of what was before them.
早く消火せねば。
また爆発が起こる前にね。
The woman passed through the open doorway. The man followed suit and ran through the hallway, only to be greeted with hellfire. The man froze in shock at the scene he was confronted with, but the women quickly got to work without even a moment's hesitation.
消火ホースの用意を。
了解。ちょっと隊長どいて。
The female rescue worker pushed the man aside and pulled out a hose from a fire hydrant built into the nearby wall. She then passed it to the lieutenant, who directed its nozzle towards the flames.
放水開始。
了解。放水行きます。
A jet stream of coal collided with the flames, which erupted into large clouds of steam. Incredible. The fire is getting smaller and smaller by the second. The man stared at the swiftly dying fire with stark amazement. Just then, he heard something else mixed in with the sound of the flames evaporating. A faint sound. One. Was that a voice? He wondered if it was his mind playing tricks on him for a second. But as soon as he strained his ears, he definitely heard what sounded like a young girl's voice coming from the room in front of him.
あの部屋誰かいる。
The man's body started running as soon as this thought hit him, weaving his way through the gaps between the flames. The room's door was crushed inwards due to the effects of the explosion. The man peeked into the room from the shadow of the broken door and discovered a world of fire and smoke. Where is it? Where's that voice coming from? His hair was singed by the sparks bathing him, creating an awful stench that hung in the air. What's more, his eyes were tearing up thanks to the smoke irritating them. But he endured it and focused on searching the room. Found her. Through the fire and flames, he could see a girl crouching under a desk in the room.
大丈夫か。
The girl looked towards the man's voice with hope in her eyes. But the moment her gaze met the man's, her face froze. Whoa, what's that look? Overcome with confusion, he came to a halt. But at that moment,
止まるな。
don't stop.
彼女を助けろ。
He suddenly heard a voice. He didn't know whose voice it was. It sounded like it echoed from inside him. But the moment he heard it, everything suddenly fell into place. He finally realized why he was here. That's right. I came here to save her. The moment he came to that realization, he previously divided body and nerves. Oh. The moment he came to that realization, his previously divided body and nerves seemed to finally become one. The flames were closing in on the girl. The voice resounded yet again in his head. And with that command given him by the final push he needed, the man lunged into the blazing flames. Hey, we might as well all die, I guess. Route double. Okay, after chapter 1, 9 o'clock chapter. 9 o'clock chapter? What? We apologize for interrupting you so early on, but there are no choices in this world. Regardless, we need your power to link this world to the future. So the senses sympathy system has been prepared in order to allow you to willingly influence the world. This tutorial will explain these to you. For that, let's explain what we mean by senses here. Senses refers to impressions, emotions, sensations in this context. Put it simply, it's your assessment of how you feel at someone else. In other words, if their senses are high, you have a good impression of that person. But on the other hand, if their senses are low, that means you should have a bad impression of that person. And the senses sympathy system exists to quantify your senses and reflect them onto this world. Now then, let's explain how to change the value of your senses. In specific scenes, a graphic that looks like a magic seal will appear in the upper right-hand corner of the screen. This is known as the enneagram, or enneagram. An enneagram is a kind of personality assessor that categorizes people into 9 different personality types. Each of the 9 main characters of the story have been categorized into these 9 types. Thus, the 9 characters have been distributed onto the 9 points of the enneagram. A graph similar to a radar chart is displayed on top of the enneagram. This graph is a symbol that represents senses. The shape of the graph corresponds to the 9 characters, and its shape will change after you alter their senses. You can input the senses of 9 characters, which includes the protagonist. Thus, in a sense, you may also set the senses you have for yourself. In such an instance, you determine whether or not you have confidence in your instincts and opinions. Alternatively, you determine how much you value yourself. Senses sympathy system. Truly a system where you determine the protagonist's various senses each time. Your senses will be used to determine which scenario divergence you will travel down at fixed divergent points. At divergence points, the story will automatically diverge in accordance to the level of your senses. You can't simply input your senses whenever you want. You can only do that at sections known as branches. When you arrive at a branch, the enneagram will appear in the upper right-hand corner. Please check if the enneagram is displayed or not to determine when you can and can't input your senses. Allow us to explain in detail through example. Let's play a demo scenario while you actually control the system. First, please take a look at the next scene. The senses input hasn't appeared yet, so please just play through the text as you normally would. In a certain boy's house, a TV and a game console were sitting in a neat and tidy living room. Oh, not my house then. Just then, a girl came down from the hallway and spoke in an inquisitive voice.
ねえねえ、何しているの？ゲームの練習？とても大切なことなの？そっか、じゃあ忙しいんだね。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるんだけど、今はダメだよね。
The girl looked at you hopefully as she said that.
ごめんなさい。邪魔みたいだから、また今度にするね。気にしないで。そんな大したことじゃなかったから。それじゃあ、ゲームの練習頑張ってね。
The girl slumped her shoulders with disappointment, and she left the living room with a lonely step in her gait. This was an example of an occasion where your senses for that girl were low. Now then, let's play that scene one more time with the goal this time being to make the girl happy. There'll be a branch this time, so you can input your senses there. When you arrive at a branch, the enneagram will appear in the upper right-hand corner. Please increase your senses for the girl before the enneagram disappears. When the senses light up, press the plus button to bring up the senses input screen. When you press the plus button, you will arrive at this screen. This is the senses input screen. Press up or down to choose whose senses you'd like to change, then press left or right to change their senses. Choose decide to, or press the A button to set your values and to finish the input process. You can only do a senses input one time per branch. You can't input again if you have changed your mind, then you've decided, so please be careful. I think it'll make more sense once we actually do it. It's not too terribly complicated.
何しているの？え、ゲームの練習？とても大切なことなの？そっか、じゃあ忙しいんだね。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるんだけど、今はダメだよね。
The girl looked at you hopefully as she said that. So you?
ごめんなさい。邪魔みたいだから、また今度にするね。気にしないで。そんな大したことじゃなかったから。それじゃあ、ゲームの練習頑張ってね。
The girl slumped her shoulders with disappointment, and she left the living room with a lonely step in her gait. Unfortunately, the girl's reaction did not change. Please repeat this scene one more time and use the sense of sympathy system. Raise your senses for the girl as high as you can before the input prompt disappears. Wait, what do you want me to do?
ねえねえ、とても大切なことなの？そっか、じゃあ忙しいんだね。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるんだけど、今は。
The girl looked at you hopefully as she said that. So you?
ごめんなさい。それ。
Huh. Wait, how do I even use this system? Boy is not very good at explaining what you actually need to do.
ねえねえ、何しているの？
Let's see, sense of sympathy display is the is it the start button or the D-pad? No, this the start button is backlog system and new message progression. Okay, so the buttons do stuff. Move cursor is either the analog stick or the control pad. Do I need ZL, the shortcut menu? Is that what I need? Sense of sympathy display is the plus button.
とても大切なことなの？
Wait, what? What are you supposed to do? Why, this is not real clear.
ね、とても大切なことなの？
Wait, how do I change the choices over there?
そっか、じゃあ忙しいんだね。それじゃあ。
What? I totally don't get this. What am I supposed to do? Okay, so right trigger is, or Z, R is skip. And then R is also skip.
ねえねえ、ゲームの練習？とても大切なことなの？そっか。じゃあ忙しいんだね。ちょっとお話ししたいことがあるんだけど、今はダメだよね。あ、ごめんなさい。それじゃあ。
I have no idea what to do. I can't move any of the gauges.
ねえねえ、とても大切なことなの？そっか、じゃあ忙しいんだね。ごめんなさい。邪魔みたいだからまた今度にするね。気にしないで。そんな大したことじゃなかったから。それじゃあゲームの練習頑張ってね。
Oh boy, I'm stuck in an endless loop until I figure out what this game wants.
とても大切なことなの？
I wonder if it's only touchscreen. I wonder if that's what it's waiting for, is a touchscreen input. Minus, plus. Decide what? What am I deciding?
そっか、お話ししてくれる？いいの？本当に？
Okay. Wow, that wasn't really all that clear in the instructions.
ありがとう。今日は七夕っていう日なんだって。それでね、短冊に願い事を書くとそれは叶うんだって。だから今から準備しなきゃって思うの。
The girl then started talking happily about the bamboo trees that are set up on the Tanabata. Congratulations, you have successfully raised the girl's favor. In this example, the girl had two different reactions, and there may be more than that depending on the situation. Whatever. If there is ever more than one target that you need to take into consideration, you'll have to reevaluate your senses for them individually. In these situations, you can input for more than one character. But the only ones whose senses you can input are the ones who are involved in the next branch. You cannot alter the senses of an unrelated character. There will occasionally be times where senses hold a greater importance than usual. As such, there are three different senses colors, each one corresponding to the importance of their upcoming branch. Blue. This signifies an event where you can probably influence the target's favor. A blue branch, as it's known, is generally not all that important. You don't even need to change your senses every time it comes up. All you have to do is change it whenever your impression of the target alters. But if you neglect too many blue branches, you could have dire consequences for you further down the line. Yellow. This generally signifies an event where you can probably influence someone's actions. A yellow branch, as it's known, is generally very important. Expect them to signify big changes, such as changing your destination or travel partner. They're not dangerous, but it's best that you change your senses to reflect your intentions at these points. And though it's rare, a yellow branch can signify that a branch of grave danger is approaching, so please be careful. Red. This signifies grave danger. A red branch, as it's known, is of the utmost importance. Decide incorrectly and you will find death lying in wait for you. Keep your eyes peeled to avoid danger, and please check your senses immediately to ensure there are no problems. Also, branches directly related to the story's conclusion will be red. We recommend you exercise cautious judgment there in the same way. This concludes the senses sympathy system explanation. Your senses will change the situation in various ways. Now then, let us return to the world. When the time starts again, a senses input will appear right away. The anagram will be glowing yellow. This indicates that a branch of great danger is coming up. Should you choose wrongly, death may claim the man. Please look over the situation calmly and select your senses right away. We are expecting your feelings to have a good effect on this world.
待ってろ。今助けてやる。
The man screamed this and was about to rush into the flames, but was interrupted by someone grabbing him by the collar. Wait a minute. It didn't.
隊長、ダメだよ、闇雲に飛び込んじゃ。
しかしこのままではあの子が。
ここは私が行く。
Once he heard her say this, the man...
いや、俺に任せろ。
But just as he was about to continue running, the blaze in front of him flared up violently. Hmm?
ああ、もうだから休んでてって言ったのに。そんな危うい足取りじゃ邪魔になるだけだよ。
すまん。やっぱ頼む。
あいや。
The female rescue worker quickly brushed the man aside, dashing into the room.
隊長、放水援護よろしく。了解。
The lieutenant pointed the hose upwards. The jet stream shattered apart when it hit the ceiling, scattering into spray. The female rescue worker then ran into the room as if clad in that water. What an amazing technique. It was perfect teamwork. The female rescuer then ran up to the girl through the mist and steam.
しゃあ、要救助者確保。
She and shouted triumphantly. That dramatic rescue had happened in the blink of an eye. A few minutes later, once the roaring inferno had been doused, the rescue workers tended to the girls they'd saved.
さあ、お嬢ちゃん、もう大丈夫だよ。
お怪我はありませんか？
The man stood a short distance away, observing them. In the end, he'd been completely useless, both at putting out the fires and at saving her. So he figured the least he could do was talk to her.
そのなんだ。無事でよかったな。
Another frightened look engulfed the girl's face at the moment.
隊長がどうしましたか？
俺は別に何も。
怖がらせないでよ。隊長、目つきが怖いんだよ。
あ、いや、すまなかった。驚かせちまったみたいだな。だが安心してくれ。俺たちは味方だ。君を助けに来たんだ。多分。
The girl's body shook with a start upon hearing that.
隊長、どうして多分なんておっしゃるんですか？
そうだよ、隊長。さっきからなんか変だよ。状況がわからないとか言うし、なんか全然使い物にならないし。
すまん。
After giving a brief apology, the man fired off another question.
ところで、二人に聞きたいことがあるんだが、俺が隊長って呼ばれてるってことは、つまり俺はレスキュー隊かなんかの隊長なんだよな。
はあ？隊長、何言ってんの？
それはどういう意味でしょう？
The man thought hard once he heard their surprised answers. But as he'd feared, he couldn't locate any information about himself in his head.
その実はわからないんだよ。自分が誰で、ここがどこなのか。 自分が誰でこ
The women's faces twitched at that proclamation.
それはまさか記憶喪失。
Amnesia. The man mulled over that word. So that's what it is. But for some illogical reason, the answer, no, that's not it, suddenly popped into my head. It's more like my mind's denying me the right to think about who I am. It was a strange feeling. But since it didn't look like he could explain what happened to him very well, he reluctantly decided to go with their suggestion.
そう、いわゆる記憶喪失らしい。
またまた冗談やめてよ隊長。
いや、これが冗談ならいいんだが。
ってもしかしてマジなの？
お待ちください隊長。頭に怪我などはされてませんか？
怪我？そういえばさっき頭がズキンと痛んだが。
やはりどこかに頭を打ちつけた可能性があります。意識や記憶の混濁はおそらくそのせいでしょう。ならば記憶は時間が経てば戻ってくるはずです。
そういうものなのか。
ええ、外傷による逆行性健忘症はほとんどの場合は特に治療をしなくてもやがて自然に症状が消えるそうです。
The lieutenant calmly explained that as he threw... Wait, the lieutenant calmly explained that as she threw around a few technical terms here and there.
じゃあこれは一時的なものか。
はい。ただ脳が損傷していた場合、健忘症は恒久的になる恐れがあります。さらにそのまま放置すると脳に障害が残ったり死亡してしまうケースも考えられます。
The man felt a shudder run through him at those words.
何それ、やばそうじゃん。隊長、頭痛の程度はどうなの？吐き気とかは？
あ、今は全く痛まない。吐き気も特に感じない。
なら安心かな。
いや、まだです。隊長、ちょっと失礼します。
The woman grabbed the man by the arm, rolled up his sleeve, and looked at his wrist. He hadn't noticed it until that moment, but he had some kind of wristband-like object around it.
これは
バイタルチェッカーと言います。装着者の健康状態を自動診断するものです。
A closer look revealed that there were several numerical readings and 5 green lights on the device.
コンディションオールグリーン。脈拍、血圧等に問題なし。完全に健康体ですね。
じゃあとりあえず死んじゃうような心配はないかな。
ただ確実な診断ではないので楽観視はできません。後ほど精密検査と治療を受けてください。
The female rescue worker's eyes widened as soon as she heard the lieutenant's reply.
あ、やばい。それよりもまず副隊長、お嬢ちゃんに AD を投与しないと。
The lieutenant's face froze at those words.
いけない。私としたことが。
The lieutenant wasted no time in taking some out of her pocket. It was an ampule loaded in a transparent container. The lieutenant turned it towards the girl and spoke.
腕を出してください。
いや、打ちたくない。
ダメです。投与しなければ危険なんですよ。
The girl turned around and tried to run, but the lieutenant grabbed her before she could. She then rolled up the girl's sleeve without giving her a chance to speak and pushed the tip of the ampule into the girl, injecting her with its contents. The girl's eyes widened and her body trembled. Feeling rather unnerved by her reaction, the man spoke up.
なんだその薬。
AD と言います。簡単に説明すると放射線被曝を防ぐ薬です。
The man felt an ominous echo in those words.
被爆を防ぐ薬だって。
ええ、今回の任務にあたってこの施設の関係者から支給されたものです。我々が生き延びるにはこの薬品の投与が不可欠なのです。
The lieutenant surveyed her surroundings, then continued in a bitter voice.
現在この施設内はくまなく放射線に汚染されていますので。
何？
The bad feeling he'd gotten earlier only intensified with that statement.
ちょっと待ってくれ。放射線とか汚染とか一体どういうことなんだ？
Alright, why don't we stop it there? This is audap. You've been watching Root Double on Nintendo Switch. Well, so far we're at the really confusing part of this murder, horror, mystery kind of game. But I've heard a lot of good things about this game, or about this visual novel. I don't know if you call it a game proper. So I'm really curious to see how this all works out. Obviously the art is pretty good, although it looks like this has been remixed from the original Root Double. I don't know if there's a way to use the original art or what. It doesn't look like it. Yeah. So yeah, if you're interested in the sort of like a thriller, mystery horror, then and you're okay with the visual novel being the way to experience that, then yeah, check it out for yourself. It went on sale a couple days ago, so yeah, it took a little while for me to get to this one because I've been doing so many other games. But yeah, I think we're also going to try to finish this one all the way if we can. It's got a bunch of routes, obviously, from both scenarios. So it will probably take a while. I imagine we'll be spending 40 or 50 hours, somewhere around there, being able to get all the things that we want. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching. I will see you at the next stream.